The transition from the non-space of quantum transit to the real was not a jolt, but a settling, as if the universe were a vast ocean and the human vessel Odyssey had just breached its surface. For a moment, there was only the stardusted velvet of the void. Then, the Aegis came into view, and a collective, silent gasp rippled through the bridge. It was not a station so much as a celestial body hammered into purpose. A swirl of crystalline structures, organic-looking biomes under translucent domes, and stark, metallic arms spun in a slow, impossibly graceful dance around a captured singularity. Light, bent and fractured by the gravity well, created a perpetual aurora that bathed the megastructure in hues of emerald and violet. It was a monument to 1,000 civilizations, a testament to time on a scale humans were only just beginning to comprehend. Ambassador Evelyn Reed gripped the armrests of her command chair, her knuckles white. Her reflection in the forward viewport was a pale, determined ghost against the impossible backdrop. Beside her, Colonel Marcus Thorne stood with the unnerving stillness of a man who had seen too much to be easily surprised. Yet even his stoic expression was tinged with awe. "All stations report green, Ambassador." Thorne's voice was a low baritone, a grounding force amidst the overwhelming spectacle. "They are hailing us. Standard greeting protocols, galactic common." Evelyn nodded, her throat suddenly dry. "Patch them through to the main screen, audio only for now. Let them hear a voice before they see a face." A chime, melodic and strange, echoed through the bridge. A voice followed, smooth and resonant, like stones tumbling in a slow river. "Vessel identifying as Odyssey of Terra, you have entered the delimited space of the Galactic Council. You are welcomed. Please state your purpose." Evelyn took a breath, feeling the weight of 7 billion souls on her shoulders. "This is Ambassador Evelyn Reed, representing the unified government of Terra. We have come in peace in response to your invitation. We are here to meet the Galactic Council." A pause, pregnant with the fate of a species. Then the voice returned, warmer this time. "Your arrival has been long anticipated, Ambassador Reed. The welcome beacon is active. Follow it to the diplomatic docking spire. The Council awaits." The journey to the docking spire was a silent tour of wonders. Ships of every conceivable design floated like motes of dust around the Aegis. Living coral vessels pulsed with soft light, angular warships bristled with unseen energies, and shimmering spheres of pure force moved with silent intent. Humanity, for all its pride and progress, was a child taking its first steps into an ancient, crowded city of giants. Disembarking was a sensory assault. The air, perfectly recycled and tuned for 100 different physiologies, carried a scent Evelyn couldn't place. A mix of ozone, alien flora, and something metallic and ancient. The gravity was a fraction higher than Earth standard, a subtle but constant reminder that they were not home. They were met not by one being, but by a delegation. A towering, crystalline entity that seemed to communicate through chimes of light. A small, multi-limbed creature that floated in a personal containment field, its thoughts touching Evelyn's mind as whispers of color and emotion. And the council speaker, a being called Xylos, whose body was a graceful pillar of what looked like polished obsidian, its voice the same one they had heard on the bridge. "On behalf of the assembled members of the Galactic Council, we welcome you, representatives of Terra," Xylos resonated. The sound vibrated in Evelyn's bones. "It is a rare and momentous occasion when a new species proves itself capable of joining this great dialogue." Evelyn inclined her head. A gesture they had been told was a near-universal sign of respect. "We are honored beyond words. We hope to prove ourselves worthy of the trust you have placed in us." Thorne and his 2 honor guards stood at attention behind her, their dark gray uniforms a stark contrast to the swirling colors and impossible shapes of the assembled aliens. Thorne's eyes, however, were not on the welcoming committee. They were scanning the cavernous hall, cataloging exits, assessing potential threats, his posture a quiet declaration that humanity did not arrive entirely defenseless. It was then that Evelyn saw them. Standing apart from the main throng, observing from the shadows of a great archway, were a group of beings that sent a shiver of primal recognition down her spine. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with a lean, corded musculature visible even beneath their fitted, earth-toned garments. They were bipedal, but their movements held a fluid, predatory grace that was utterly non-human. Their heads were feline, with tufted ears that swiveled independently, catching every sound. Large, luminous eyes, the color of molten gold, were fixed on the human delegation. Their faces were a blend of regal beauty and lethal potential, with high cheekbones, strong jaws, and a faint ruff of fur framing their features. One of them, clearly the leader, stepped forward slightly. He was older, his short-cropped mane streaked with silver. A fine tracery of scars marked the fur around one eye, a testament to a life of conflict. He carried no obvious weapon, yet he radiated an aura of capability that was more intimidating than any blaster rifle. Xylo seemed to notice Evelyn's attention. "Those are the Kithara," its voice resonated softly. "They represent the pride of Alaris, warriors, hunters. They are an old and respected voice on the council." The Kithara leader's golden eyes met Evelyn's. There was no malice in his gaze, but an unnerving intensity, a look of profound, analytical curiosity. It was the look a master craftsman gives a new and interesting tool, or a predator gives a strange new creature in its territory, not to devour, but to understand. To measure, Thorn leaned forward, his voice a barely audible whisper in Evelyn's ear. "Ambassador, look at their posture, the way they stand, not flat-footed. They're on the balls of their feet, ready to spring, like a cat about to pounce. And their eyes, they're not just looking at us, they're sizing us up." Evelyn knew he was right. She could feel it. While the other species saw diplomats and explorers, the Kithara saw something else. She met the old warrior's gaze and held it, offering a slow, deliberate nod. His head tilted in response, a subtle acknowledgement. In that silent exchange, something profound passed between them, a recognition of shared ancestry that went deeper than planets or stars, back to the ancient dance of hunter and hunted on 1,000 different worlds. The Kithara saw the predator lurking behind the placid mask of human diplomacy, and they were intrigued. The grand welcome ceremony unfolded in the council's great chamber, a colossal amphitheater where representatives from hundreds of star systems floated in designated pods or stood on platforms calibrated to their specific environmental needs. Evelyn delivered her prepared speech, speaking of humanity's journey from a single planet to the stars, of its art, its science, its hopes for a peaceful future. The reception was polite, a murmur of translated approvals echoing through the chamber. Throughout the ceremony, she felt the weight of the Kithara's gaze. They did not sit with the others but stood on a high, shadowed balcony, their lean silhouettes outlined against the light of a miniature, contained star that served as the chamber's illumination. Their leader, whom she learned was named Kalen, hunt master of the Silent Prowl clan, watched her every move. He did not seem to be listening to her words about peace and cooperation. He was watching her hands, her breathing, the subtle tension in her shoulders. He was reading her body like a tracker reads a trail. After the formalities, the real process began. To be accepted as a full member, a new species required a sponsor. An established member raced to guide them, evaluate them, and ultimately vouch for their fitness to join the galactic community. Many had assumed the logical, scholarly Xylos or the benevolent, trade-oriented Glyptons would offer. Instead, a deep, rumbling voice cut through the murmurs of the assembled delegates. It was Kalen, his voice amplified throughout the chamber, a sound like a low growl that had been shaped into precise, deliberate words. "The pride of Alaris will sponsor the humans of Terra." A stunned silence fell over the great chamber. The Kithara were notoriously insular. They participated in council affairs out of a sense of duty, but they rarely took an active interest in newcomers, whom they often disdained as prey species, lacking in strength and spirit. Xylos turned its crystalline form toward the balcony. "Huntmaster Kalen, this is unexpected. The sponsorship protocols are rigorous. They require extensive interaction, shared trials." "We are aware of the protocols," Kalen interrupted, his tone brooks no argument. He descended from the balcony, not by a lift, but with a series of silent, fluid leaps that carried him across platforms until he stood before them. Up close, he was even more imposing. His golden eyes swept over Evelyn and Thorn. "We have watched the data streams from Terra," Kalen said, his gaze lingering on Thorn for a moment before returning to Evelyn. "We have seen your history. It is drenched in blood and conflict. You hunt, you kill, you form pacts to wage war. You are violent and unpredictable. Most on this council see this as a failing, a sign of primitive savagery to be tamed. He took a step closer, close enough that Evelyn could see the individual silver hairs in his mane. We see it differently. We see the fire of a predator's spirit. You have the hunter's instinct buried beneath layers of soft words and fragile technology. You have the pack's loyalty. These are not flaws, they are strengths if properly honed. But strength must be tested. It must be proven, not merely claimed. He turned to the council at large. The Cathara will test the humans. We will see if their spirit is that of a true hunter or merely a scavenger. We will take them to the proving grounds. We will strip away their politics and their machines and look upon their bare nature. If they are worthy, we will call them kin. If they fail, we will cast them back to their quiet little star, and this council will be troubled by them no more. His declaration hung in the air, a challenge and a promise. Thorn's hand instinctively drifted closer to the sidearm concealed beneath his dress jacket. A gesture of defiance Kalen noted with a faint, almost imperceptible twitch of his whiskers. Evelyn, however, felt a strange sense of clarity. This was a language humanity understood far better than the esoteric debates of the council. This was about survival, strength, and honor. This was a test of heart. She stepped forward, meeting Kalen's intense gaze without flinching. On behalf of Terra, Huntmaster Kalen, we accept your sponsorship, and we accept your challenge. A low purr, a sound of deep and ancient satisfaction, rumbled in Kalen's chest. The test had already begun. The first trial took place on Xylos 7, a world that was beautiful and lethal in equal measure. It was a planet where silicon had replaced carbon as the dominant life-building element. Crystalline forests of razor-sharp quartz chimed in the perpetual twilight, their edges sharp enough to slice through standard environment suits. The ground glittered with geodes, and the air, a thick mixture of nitrogen and argon, hummed with a constant, low-level electromagnetic field that played havoc with advanced electronics. The human team consisted of 12 specialists led by Colonel Thorn. Evelyn was present as an observer, alongside Kalen and his second, a younger, fiercely skeptical Cathara named Lyra. They watched from a floating observation platform, shielded from the environment. The task is simple, Kalen explained, his voice a low rumble. His golden eyes were fixed on the human team below as they made their final preparations. At the heart of the Whispering Wood is a geothermal vent. Beside it grows a single, perfect resonance crystal, an object of great natural beauty. Your team will retrieve it and bring it back. They have 3 rotations of this world to do so. Lyra scoffed, a soft, breathy sound. A simple fetch quest, Huntmaster. I thought we were to test their spirit, not their delivery skills. Patience, young blood, Kalen chided gently. The test is not the task. The test is the forest. Observe. The challenge was far from simple. The electromagnetic field rendered most of their high-tech scanners useless. Comms were reduced to short-range line of sight. Their navigational computers were unreliable, forcing them back to compasses and star charts. Furthermore, Kalen had added a critical rule. They were not to break the forest. They could not use explosives to clear a path or heavy weapons to shatter the crystal growths. They were to pass through it leaving as little trace as possible, a sign of respect for the environment, the first law of a true hunter. For the first rotation, the humans struggled. 2 soldiers received deep lacerations on their suits from brushing against the native flora, requiring immediate patch jobs. Their progress was agonizingly slow, each step a calculated risk. Lyra looked smug. They are clumsy, she murmured. Loud, they move like panicked herbivores. They rely too much on their machines, and without them they are lost. They are not lost, Kalen corrected, his gaze unwavering. They are learning. He was right. By the second rotation, the human approach had changed. Evelyn watched, fascinated, as they adapted. Thorn had his team shed all non-essential electronic gear, lightening their loads and reducing their M signature. A biologist on the team, a woman named Dr. Aris, had discovered that certain frequencies of sound caused specific crystal types to vibrate and glow. They began using tuned sonic emitters as a form of active sonar, mapping the forest ahead in shimmering, temporary walls of light. They moved slower, more deliberately, their footsteps silent. They began to mimic the behavior of the native six-legged grazers, finding paths of least resistance. Their communication evolved. Without long-range radios, they developed a system of complex hand signals and patterned light flashes, coordinating their movements with a silent, fluid efficiency that began to resemble a wolf pack on the hunt. Their pack bonding is strong, Kalen noted, a hint of approval in his voice. The leader, Thorn, does not command through fear. He listens to his specialists. The biologist, the engineer, each has a voice. The pack is stronger for the skills of its individuals. On the final rotation, they reached the geothermal vent. The resonance crystal was there, a magnificent 10-foot spire of flawless amethyst that pulsed with a soft internal light. Getting it out was the final puzzle. It was too large to carry and too fragile to cut with their available tools. From the observation platform, Lyra smirked. They have failed. They cannot retrieve it without breaking your rules. But Thorn's team was already at work. Their engineer, using the sonic emitters, found the crystal's unique resonant frequency. He began to broadcast a focused, low-power sonic wave at the base of the crystal. It was a painstaking process. For hours, nothing happened. Then, microfractures, following the crystal's natural lattice structure, began to appear where it joined the rock. They were not breaking it, but coaxing it to separate along its own lines of weakness. As the sun, a dim blue dwarf, began to set, the great crystal finally sheared away from its base with a deep, resonant chime that echoed through the entire forest. Using a system of pulleys and levers fashioned from their own gear and the strongest of the native crystalline flora, the team carefully lowered the spire onto a makeshift sledge. Their return journey was a testament to endurance. They moved as one, taking turns hauling the heavy crystal, protecting it with their own bodies when navigating treacherous passages. When they finally emerged from the tree line, exhausted but triumphant, the first thing Thorn did was ensure his entire team was accounted for and their injuries, minor cuts and bruises, were tended to. Only then did he approach the platform and salute. "The objective is secured, Ambassador," he said, his voice hoarse with fatigue but firm with pride. Lyra was silent, her ears flattened in surprise. Kalen looked down at the human team, then at Evelyn. A slow, approving purr rumbled in his chest. "They did not conquer the forest," he said, his voice filled with a new respect. "They listened to it. They learned its song and harmonized with it. This is the way of the hunter, to understand the terrain, not to dominate it. They have passed the first trial." The second trial was a test of combat, but not of simple brute force. It was held in the Crucible, a vast holographic simulation chamber on the Aegis that could replicate any environment and any foe. The scenario was a classic tactical problem, a fortified enemy position atop a central spire in a simulated ruined city. The human team, again led by Thorn, had to capture and hold the spire for 10 minutes. Their opponents, a team of Cathara warriors led by Lyra herself. The Cathara had every physical advantage. In the simulation, they were faster, stronger, and had senses far superior to the humans. Their reflexes were legendary. They fought with curved energy blades and wrist-mounted plasma casters, favoring swift, overwhelming assaults. "This will be a short test," Lyra commented to Kalen before entering the simulation chamber, her tail lashing with confident energy. "We will show them the meaning of a true warrior's charge." Kalen merely inclined his head. "A quick victory teaches little young blood. Do not underestimate their capacity for novel thinking." The simulation began. The cityscape was a maze of shattered ferrocrete and twisted girders under a perpetually stormy sky. The Cathara immediately took the high ground, their movements a blur of silent grace. They established overlapping fields of fire, their golden eyes scanning the rubble below for any sign of movement. The humans were nowhere to be seen. Minutes ticked by. Lyra grew impatient, suspecting a trick. She sent out 2 scouts to sweep the perimeter. They moved with lethal speed, clearing sectors with practiced efficiency. Nothing. Then the attack came, not from the front but from below. Thorn had used the first 10 minutes not to advance, but to have his combat engineers use seismic charges to destabilize the foundations of several adjacent buildings. A coordinated detonation sent tons of rubble cascading down, creating a massive, temporary ramp that led directly to a blind spot on the spire's mid-level. As dust and debris filled the air, obscuring the Cathara's vision, the human team charged up the ramp under the cover of the chaos. The Cathara, caught by surprise, reacted instantly. Lyra let out a sharp battle cry and led the counterattack. The close-quarters combat was brutal. The Cathara were individually superior, their blades weaving deadly arcs. 2 human soldiers went down, their simulated life signs winking out. But the humans fought not as individuals, but as a single organism. They used suppressive fire from their pulse rifles, forcing the Cathara to take cover. They deployed flashbang grenades and smoke screens, deliberately targeting the Cathara's superior senses. They didn't try to win one-on-one duels. They used coordinated fire to isolate and eliminate their targets. Thorn was the nexus of their strategy. He wasn't the best shot or the fastest soldier, but he saw the entire battlefield. He directed his squads with clipped, precise commands, exploiting every momentary advantage. He anticipated Lyra's flanking maneuver and had a heavy weapons team waiting in ambush. Lyra, enraged, broke through the human line and charged Thorn directly, her energy blade humming. Thorn didn't try to meet her in a contest of skill. Instead, he dropped a small disc at his feet. A hard light shield erupted between them, absorbing the force of her strike. At the same time, 2 other soldiers targeted her from different angles, forcing her to retreat. It was a classic example of human tactics, using technology and teamwork to overcome a superior individual opponent. They took the spire. The 10-minute countdown began. The Cathara regrouped and launched a furious, coordinated assault. It was a desperate battle. The humans were losing ground, their numbers dwindling. With 1 minute left, only Thorn and 3 other soldiers were left standing. Lyra, leading a final, desperate charge, was poised to retake the control point. "They have lost," Lyra's voice echoed in the observation deck where Evelyn and Kalen watched. "The clock," Kalen said, his eyes narrowed. Then Thorn gave his final command. "Protocol, Phoenix." The 3 remaining soldiers abandoned the control point. They overcharged their rifle cores and threw them into the spire's power conduit. At the same time, Thorn activated a dead man switch. The simulation registered a massive energy spike. The spire and everyone on it was vaporized in a simulated plasma explosion. The simulation ended. The score screen appeared. Result: draw, objective denied to both teams. Lyra emerged from her simulation pod, her fur bristling with fury. A trick, a coward's move. They destroyed the objective rather than lose it honorably. Thorn and his surviving soldiers emerged, bruised and exhausted but resolute. He faced Lyra directly. "My objective was not to win, Huntress. It was to deny you the objective. I was given a scenario. I achieved the optimal outcome with the resources available. Sometimes victory isn't about what you gain. It's about what you prevent your enemy from gaining." Lyra was about to retort when Kalen placed a calming hand on her shoulder. He looked at Thorn, his golden eyes filled with a profound understanding. "In our culture, this is a questionable tactic," Kalen stated calmly. "We believe in meeting an enemy face-to-face in a contest of strength and will, but we also value success. You were tasked with preventing our control of the spire. You succeeded. You sacrificed your own simulated lives and the objective itself to achieve your mission's goal. You chose a strategic victory over a tactical loss. It is an unfamiliar logic, but it is not without its own honor." He turned to Lyra. "They did not fight us on our terms. They forced us to fight on theirs. They turned the environment into a weapon. They turned their own defeat into a strategic stalemate. They fought not with fang and claw, but with mind and will. That is a formidable weapon, young blood. Do not dismiss it so easily." For the first time, a flicker of grudging respect appeared in Lyra's eyes. The humans were not just clever prey. They were a different kind of predator altogether. The third and final trial was the most crucial. It was not a test of physical prowess or tactical acumen, but of character, honor, and wisdom. It was called the Silent Hunt, and it took place on Alaris, the Cathara homeworld, in a sacred forest known as the Ancestors' Shadow. The forest was a living cathedral, with trees so vast their canopy formed a second sky. Bioluminescent fungi cast a soft, ethereal glow on the mossy ground. The air was cool and smelled of damp earth and alien blossoms. It was a place of deep spiritual significance to the Kithara, where they came to meditate and connect with the spirits of their greatest hunters. This time, the human team was small. It consisted only of Ambassador Reed and Colonel Thorne. They were divested of all advanced technology save for a translator and a basic survival pack. Their guide and observer was Kalen himself. "The trial is this," Kalen explained as they stood at the forest's edge. "A week ago, an elder of my clan, a respected lore-keeper named Zarthus, committed a grave crime. He stole a sacred artifact, the claw of the first huntress, from our temple and fled into this forest. Such a crime is punishable by death. Your task is to track him, apprehend him, and bring him to justice." He handed Evelyn a data slate. "This contains the evidence against him. His paw print was found at the scene. 3 witnesses heard him speak of his jealousy over the artifact. He has brought shame to our clan." Thorne immediately began studying the terrain, his mind already formulating a search pattern. But Evelyn was focused on the data slate. Something felt wrong. The evidence was too neat, too convenient. "What is the nature of this artifact?" she asked Kalen. "It is a symbol," Kalen said, his gaze distant. "It reminds us that the first hunt is the hunt for knowledge, for wisdom, that a true hunter does not kill for sport but for balance." Over the next 3 days, they tracked Zarthus. Thorne's skills were remarkable. He found a broken twig here, a displaced stone there, faint signs of passage that even Kalen acknowledged with a respectful nod. They were closing in. During their long treks, Evelyn engaged Kalen in conversation, asking about Kithara traditions, their laws, and their concept of justice. "We believe in the clarity of the hunt," Kalen explained one evening as they sat by a small, crackling fire. "A trail does not lie. Evidence is evidence. When a predator becomes rabid, it must be put down for the health of the pack." "But what if the trail is misleading?" Evelyn countered gently. "What if the evidence is designed to deceive?" Kalen's ears twitched. "Deception in such a sacred matter is unthinkable. It is a profound dishonor." On the 4th day, they found Zarthus's camp in a hidden grotto behind a waterfall. The old Kithara was there, gaunt and weary, the ornate claw-tipped artifact resting on a rock beside him. He did not resist as Thorne cautiously approached. "So, the Hunt Master sends aliens to do his work," Zarthus rasped, his voice frail. "I am ready for my fate." Thorne was about to secure him when Evelyn held up a hand. "Colonel, wait!" She walked forward and looked not at Zarthus, but at the ground around the camp. She had noticed something Thorne, focused on the quarry, had missed. There were other tracks, artfully concealed but visible to her diplomatic eye, which was trained to see subtle inconsistencies. And she noticed the way Zarthus held his left paw. It was stiff, the joint swollen. "Zarthus," she said, her voice soft. "May I see your left paw?" The old Kithara hesitated, then extended it. The paw was afflicted with a degenerative disease, the joints calcified. The print on the data slate was of a healthy, strong paw. It could not have been his. "The artifact," Evelyn continued, pointing to it. "Its inscription speaks of seeking wisdom. What wisdom did you seek in the forest, elder?" Zarthus looked at Kalen, then at Evelyn, and a lifetime of sorrow filled his eyes. "I sought the wisdom to face my accuser. The one who truly stole the artifact and framed me was Lyra, your second-in-command, Hunt Master. She believes you are growing soft, that your interest in these aliens is a weakness. She sought to disgrace you by staging this crime, knowing you would be honor-bound to see me punished. She would then challenge you for leadership, claiming your judgment was clouded." Thorne was stunned into silence. Kalen's face became a mask of stone, his eyes blazing with a cold fire. He had been so bound by his own traditions of honor that he had failed to see the deception right in front of him. He had been the one being hunted. "How did you know?" Kalen asked Evelyn, his voice a low whisper. "In human justice we have a principle, motive," Evelyn explained. "Zarthus had no motive to steal a symbol of wisdom he already possessed, but a young, ambitious warrior. She had every motive to discredit her superior. The evidence was too perfect. The crime was too public. It felt like a performance, a story being told. And I have learned that when a story is too simple, it is often because the most important parts have been left out." She turned to Thorne. "We are not here to capture a fugitive, Colonel. We are here to prevent a coup." The final confrontation took place not in the forest, but back on the Aegis, in the Cathara's private council chambers. When Kaelin, Evelyn, and Thorn arrived with a vindicated Zarthus, Lyra was already there, addressing the other clan elders. Kaelin has failed, she was saying, her voice ringing with passion. He has allowed his judgment to be swayed by these soft-skinned newcomers. He could not even complete the hunt himself. The hunt is complete, young blood. Kaelin's voice cut through the chamber like a whip. He stepped into the light, Zarthus at his side. But you misidentified the prey. He laid out the truth, piece by piece, with cold, irrefutable logic. He presented Zarthus's physical condition. He spoke of Lyra's ambition. And then he played a recording. Thorn, ever the pragmatist, had placed a micro-recorder on Zarthus's robes, and it had captured the elder's full confession, including details of Lyra's plan that only the conspirators could have known. Lyra, trapped and exposed, did the only thing a cornered Cathara warrior could do. She drew her energy blade and let out a piercing cry, challenging Kaelin for leadership through trial by combat. The elders watched, grim-faced, as the two circled each other. Lyra was younger, faster, her movements a blur of controlled fury. Kaelin was older, but he possessed the economy of motion that came only with a lifetime of battle. He deflected her furious blows with minimal effort, his feet seemingly rooted to the floor. He was not fighting her, he was letting her exhaust herself. "Your hunt was flawed," Kaelin said, his voice calm even as blades of pure energy hissed inches from his face. "You saw the humans as prey, as a weakness. You failed to see their true strength. It is not in their claws or their speed. It is in their minds. They see the patterns you miss. They question the trail when it seems too easy. That is a skill you have yet to learn." In a flash, the fight was over. Seeing an opening born of her frustration, Kaelin disarmed Lyra with a move so fast it was almost invisible, placing the tip of his own blade at her throat. Defeated, she sank to her knees, her ears flat against her head, awaiting her sentence. Kaelin deactivated his blade. "Your life is forfeit, but to kill you would be a waste. Your punishment will be to learn. You will serve as the liaison to the human delegation. You will study them. You will learn their ways of thinking. You will not speak unless spoken to, until you understand the wisdom in seeing the universe through more than one set of eyes." He then turned to Evelyn and Thorn and bowed his head, a gesture of profound respect. "You have passed the third trial. You have shown us that your spirit is guided not just by instinct, but by wisdom and a deep sense of justice. You did not blindly follow the evidence we gave you. You hunted for the truth. This is the highest calling of a hunter, the highest honor." News of the trials spread through the Galactic Council. The tale of the clumsy newcomers who learned the song of a crystal forest, who fought a superior foe to a strategic draw, and who unraveled a political conspiracy through wisdom and empathy, became a legend. The humans were no longer seen as just another primitive, spacefaring species. They were seen as something new, something different. A week later, the human delegation was summoned once more to the Great Chamber. This time there was no formal welcome, but a gathering of equals. Kaelin, standing in the center of the chamber, his presence commanding the attention of all, beckoned Evelyn forward. "We, the Cathara, set out to test the humans of Terra," he announced, his voice resonating with authority. "We tested their bodies on Xylos 7 and found them adaptable and resilient. We tested their minds in the Crucible and found them ingenious and unpredictable. We tested their spirits in our most sacred forest and found them wise and honorable." He paused, his golden eyes sweeping across the chamber before settling on Evelyn. "We have discovered that they are, like us, a species of predators, but their hunt is not only for sustenance or for dominance. They hunt for knowledge, they hunt for truth, they hunt for a better future. They are a species of individuals, each with a unique fire, yet they can come together to form a pack more formidable than any we have ever encountered." Suddenly, the chamber was plunged into near darkness. A single spotlight illuminated the center. Then a crisis alert klaxon, loud and jarring, blared through the station. Red lights began to flash. Xylos's voice echoed, tight with alarm. "Containment breach in the xenobiology labs. Sector Gamma 7. A Tier 9 non-sentient has escaped. All security teams respond." A live feed appeared on the main screen. A creature of nightmare, a seething mass of tentacles and chitinous plates, was tearing through the corridors, impervious to energy weapons. Council security forces were being thrown aside like dolls. Chaos erupted in the chamber as delegates scrambled for information. The Cathara warriors, including Lyra, drew their weapons, ready to join the fray. "We will hunt it down," Lyra snarled. "Wait," Thorn's voice cut through the panic. He was studying the live feed on a side monitor, his face a mask of intense concentration. "Doctor." Eris, the biologist from the first trial, was at his side, pointing at the screen. "Its movements aren't random," Eris said quickly. "It's being drawn to the sector's primary power conduit. It feeds on raw energy. If it reaches it, it could cause a cascade failure that would cripple the entire station." "Brute force won't work," Thorn stated, turning to Evelyn. "We can't kill it before it reaches the conduit. We have to redirect it." Evelyn turned to Kalen. "Huntmaster, your warriors are fast and strong, but they will be drawn into a direct confrontation. We have another way. Trust us?" Kalen hesitated for only a second, then gave a sharp nod. "What do you need?" "Access to the station's atmospheric and power grid controls for that sector," Evelyn said. "And I need to talk to it." The request was insane, but Xylos, seeing the failure of their own security, granted it. At a console, Evelyn and Dr. Aris began their work. They couldn't communicate with the creature in language, but Aris had an idea. "It's a simple organism," she explained, her fingers flying across the console. "Driven by instinct, hunger. We can't reason with it, but we can bargain with its biology. I'm analyzing its energy signature. It's drawn to specific M frequencies. We can create a more attractive food source." While Aris worked on creating a focused energy beacon in an isolated, reinforced cargo bay, Thorn directed the station's systems. "Flood Sector Gamma-6 with argon gas," he commanded the station controller. "It won't hurt the creature, but it will make the air smell wrong to its primitive senses. Create a barrier of scent. Then lower the temperature in its path. Make the route to the conduit uncomfortable." It was a uniquely human solution. Not a battle, but a large-scale exercise in animal handling. They used their deep, instinctual understanding of biology and behavior, honed over millennia of domesticating and managing the creatures of their own world. On the main screen, everyone watched as the plan unfolded. The creature, roaring in frustration, slowed as it hit the cold, argon-filled corridor. At that exact moment, Aris activated her energy beacon. A powerful, alluring pulse of the creature's preferred frequency emanated from the cargo bay. The creature hesitated, its simple mind torn between the nearby power conduit and the much stronger, more delicious signal from elsewhere. After a moment of indecision, it turned away from the conduit and began smashing its way toward the cargo bay. Once it was inside, Thorn sealed the blast doors and vented the bay into space. The crisis was over. Not with a bang, but with a clever, quiet solution. Silence returned to the great chamber. The delegates looked from the now empty corridor on the screen to the small group of humans at the console. They hadn't used a single weapon. They had used their minds. They had used their unique perspective as masters of a complex biosphere. They had faced a galactic-level threat and had tamed it. Kalen walked over to Evelyn, his movements filled with a reverence she had not seen before. He stood before her, not as a sponsor to a supplicant, but as a warrior to a respected peer. "We came seeking a kindred spirit, a fellow hunter," he said, his voice now soft for her ears only. "We found something more. You are not just hunters, you are shepherds, you are tamers, you are guardians. You have shown us a strength that does not come from the sharpness of one's claws, but from the breadth of one's understanding." He then turned to face the entire Galactic Council, his voice ringing out once more, filled with an unshakable conviction. "The trials are over. The pride of Alaris has found the humans of Terra to be a species of unparalleled potential. Their spirit is strong, their minds are keen, and their honor is absolute. They are predators who value life, warriors who seek peace, and individuals who can form a perfect pack. They are worthy." He faced Evelyn again and made a gesture with his hand over his heart, the Cathara's most sacred salute. "Ambassador Evelyn Reed of Terra, on behalf of the unified prides of the Cathara, I offer you not just our sponsorship, but a perpetual alliance. Let our hunters run with yours. Let our worlds stand together. Let our people be known as kin from this day until the stars themselves grow cold. We will share our territories, our knowledge, and our strength. Will you accept?" Evelyn looked at Thorn, who gave her a single, firm nod. She looked at her team, their faces beaming with pride and exhaustion. She thought of the 7 billion souls on a small blue planet, looking up at the night sky, wondering if they were alone. A smile, genuine and bright, finally broke through her diplomatic composure. She met Kalen's fierce, golden gaze and offered the human equivalent of his salute, a hand placed firmly over her own heart. "On behalf of Terra," she said, her voice clear and strong, echoing through the silent, awestruck chamber, "we accept."